Retired 19 months now. I still count in 12-second intervals. That's the sweep rate on the RSR-4, the long-range radar that covers the oceanic sectors out of Boston Center. 12 seconds between paints. My wife found me standing at the kitchen window last week, just staring at the backyard. She asked how long I'd been there. I didn't know, but I'd been counting. I'm recording this on the handheld because I tried writing it down and I couldn't get past the second paragraph. Something about saying it out loud makes it manageable, like a position report. Here's what happened. Here's where it was. Here's what I saw. I worked Boston Center for 27 years, last 15 of those on Sector 55, the Oceanic Transition Sector, high altitude, covering the Gulf of Maine, out to the Gander boundary. It was the cleanest scope in the building. No terrain returns, no ground clutter, no shopping malls bouncing signals back at you. Just water. Water and sky and the occasional Lufthansa climbing out to cross the Atlantic. I liked it that way. Over water, if the scope paints something, something is there. There's nothing else to bounce off of. That's what I told myself for 15 years. December 14th, 2005. I plugged in at 0200. Larry Kovacs gave me the position brief. 8 targets on the scope, all high altitude, mostly eastbound oceanic departures. Light traffic, December traffic. He said the overnight had been quiet, and he looked like he meant it. Larry was the kind of controller who would tell you if something was off. He didn't tell me anything was off. Weather was mixed precip along the coast. Portland was reporting 600 overcast, mile-and-a-half in freezing drizzle. Bangor had ceilings at 800. But above flight level 200 over the water, the scope was clean, cold, clear, and empty. I settled into the position. Third coffee of the night. The styrofoam cup I kept on the ledge next to the strip bay, where the heat from the console would keep it warm for maybe 20 minutes. The strip printer chattered behind me, spitting out a late oceanic clearance for a British Airways 777. The air conditioning vent on the back of my neck pushed cold recycled air that smelled like old carpet and ozone. I'd been breathing that air for 27 years. Lufthansa 471 Heavy, Boston Center, radar contact, climb and maintain flight level 390. Flight level 390, Lufthansa 471 Heavy. Clean readback. Good voice, German accent, professional. The kind of crew that makes you trust the sky. Data block drifting northeast behind the target like a leash. FedEx 184 Heavy. Contact Gander on 132.85. Good night. 3285. FedEx 184 Heavy. Good night. That's the oceanic overnight. You talk to metal. The metal talks back. You watch green dots drift east toward Europe and wait for the next check-in. For 15 years on Sector 55, that was the whole job. The British Airways 777 checked in at 0231. Normal call, normal clearance, normal night. I had 6 targets left on the scope, all behaving, all where they should be. I took a sip of coffee. It had gone cold. At 0237, a target appeared. Flight level 310. 180 miles east of Portland, over the Gulf of Maine. Squawking 1200. 1200 is the VFR squawk. Visual flight rules. You dial it in when you're flying a Cessna at 3,000 feet on a Sunday afternoon. Nobody squawks 1200 at flight level 310. Nobody squawks 1200 over the Gulf of Maine in December at night, 180 miles from the nearest coastline at 31,000 feet. I tagged the target on the scope. The host system accepted it. Primary and secondary return, both solid. Mode C came up steady, flight level 310, but no data block, no flight plan in the system, no call sign. Aircraft squawking 1200, 180 miles east of Portland, flight level 310, Boston Center on 133.45. Identify yourself. Standard call. 27 years of calm. Nothing came back. No voice. No squelch break. No ident flash on the scope. Just the sweep coming around again, 12 seconds, and the target sitting right where it was. I made a note on the flight strip I'd started, pencil on paper, Nordo maybe, or military with the wrong code dialed in. I'd call needs in a few minutes if it didn't sort itself out. Probably a tanker out of Bangor with a bad squawk. It happens. The sweep came around, 12 seconds. The target was still there, but it had moved. Not east, not west, not transiting. It had turned. I watched it for 2 full orbits before I was sure. Right turn, 1 minute outbound leg, standard rate turn back inbound, 1 minute inbound leg, standard rate turn outbound again. Textbook holding pattern, the kind they teach you in ground school, the kind nobody actually flies that clean in the real world. Pilots drift, pilots cut corners on the outbound leg, overshoot the inbound turn. Wind pushes them. That's normal. That's human. This wasn't drifting. This was geometry. I tried to figure out what it was holding at. Every holding pattern has a fix, a point in space defined by a navaid or a GPS coordinate. You hold at a fix because somebody told you to, because you're waiting for a clearance or a gap in the sequence or the weather to move. Nobody holds in the middle of the Gulf of Maine at 3 in the morning unless they've been told to. Nobody had told this target anything. I hadn't issued a hold. No other facility had issued a hold. There was no fix on my scope at that position. I pulled up the host database and searched for published intersections within 10 miles of the holding point. Nothing. The fix didn't exist. I called the supervisor. Dave Mancini, 24 years at Boston Center, most of it on the oceanic sectors. He came over, watched the target complete another orbit. What's it holding at? That's what I'm trying to figure out. There's no fix there. He watched another turn. That's a clean hold. Too clean. I wanted it to be military. Explainable. Somebody else's problem I could hand off to needs and forget about. But then I remembered something. The paper archives. Boston Center kept decommissioned procedure charts in a filing cabinet in the back of the equipment room. Nobody ever looked at them. Supposed to have been sent to the regional archive years ago, but nobody had gotten around to it. I told Dave I'd be right back. The equipment room was cold. Fluorescent lights humming. I found the cabinet, pulled open the third drawer. Approach plates, oceanic transition procedures, yellowed paper. Bangor International, filed by effective date. I went back through the stack. 1994, 1988, 1982, 1976, 1969. There it was, Oceanic Transition Approach, Bangor International, effective April 1969. And on the chart, 30 miles northeast of the current star routing, was a holding fix. Inhale, SEBEC intersection. Published as part of the Oceanic Transition Procedure for aircraft inbound from the North Atlantic to Bangor. Holding altitude, block FL-290 through FL-350. Decommissioned March 1982 when the procedure was replaced with updated VOR DME routing. The target on my scope was holding at a fix that had been removed from every chart in the National Airspace System 23 years ago. I walked back to the sector. Dave was still watching. SEBEC, I said. It's holding at SEBEC. Dave looked at me. That fix hasn't existed since the 80s. I know. I tried the radio again. Aircraft holding 180 miles east of Portland, squawking 1200, Boston Center on 133.45. Say call sign and intentions. Nothing. Not even static. The frequency was just open. Dead air with a carrier signal underneath it. Third hold completed, and then the mode C changed. Flight level 310 dropped to flight level 300. A clean descent, exactly 1,000 feet, not 950, not 1050. 1,000 feet exactly, time to the completion of the hold. Fourth hold, FL 300 to FL 290. Same thing, 1,000 feet on the turn. Each hold, it came down another 1,000, like a staircase. Like something descending on an approach that didn't exist anymore, following a procedure decommissioned before some of my trainees were born. Fifth hold was starting when the Lufthansa called. Boston Center, Lufthansa 471 Heavy. Lufthansa 471 Heavy, go ahead. We are seeing lights below us at our 12 o'clock position, perhaps flight level 280. Appears to be an aircraft in a holding pattern. Do you have traffic? My hands were cold, not from the air conditioning. Lufthansa 471 Heavy, negative. No traffic at that altitude. Can you describe what you see? Hall, a pause. Then the captain, slower now. Strobes and position lights, white and green, standard configuration, but the pattern is very precise, very regular. Copy, Lufthansa 471 Heavy, we're investigating. Maintain flight level 390 and continuous filed. Wilco, Lufthansa 471 Heavy. I looked at Dave. Dave was already picking up the landline to call needs. The target completed its fifth hold, FL 290 to FL 280, 1,000 feet. Exactly. Something was descending over the Gulf of Maine in December, following a procedure from 1969, holding at a fix from 1982, and now a Lufthansa crew at flight level 390 could see it at FL 280. I stopped thinking about military exercises. Dave was on the phone with needs for 6 minutes. I know because I counted the sweeps. 30 sweeps. 6 minutes. The target completed its sixth hold while he was talking. FL 280 down to FL 270, same as every time, 1,000 feet exactly, and Dave came back with nothing. They see the primary return on their long range. Can't identify it. No military traffic scheduled in the Gulf of Maine tonight. They're gonna keep watching. That's it? That's it? Dave pulled a chair over and sat down next to me. We watched the scope together. 2 controllers, 60 years of combined experience, watching a green dot fly holding patterns at a fix that didn't exist in a piece of sky where nothing should be. The target started another orbit at FL 270. I should explain the emergency squawk codes for anyone who doesn't know. 7700 means emergency. You need help now. 7600 means communications failure. Your radios are dead. 7500 means hijack. I'd seen that code activated exactly once in 27 years. A false alarm on a commuter out of Albany. The target was inbound on the pass. FL 270. 1 minute leg. I was watching the data block, waiting for the altitude to drop to FL 260 on the turn like it had every time before. The altitude didn't change. The squawk code changed. 7700. The scope lit up. The host system threw a conflict alert. Red text, flashing, the way it does when someone squawks emergency. I reached for my transmit button automatically, 27 years of reflex, and then I stopped. Because who was I going to talk to? It hadn't answered a single call in 44 minutes. 1 sweep, 12 seconds, 7600. The emergency code was gone. Now it was showing lost comm. My hand was still on the transmit button. Dave was standing up. 1 sweep, 7500. Hijack. The code I never wanted to see. Flashing on a target with no call sign. No flight plan, no voice. A target that had been holding at a fix from 1982 for 44 minutes over black water. 1 sweep, 1200. VFR. The same code it had been squawking all night. Like nothing happened. Like a reset. 1 sweep. Gone. The scope was clean. ARSR-4 at North Truro confirmed. Target lost. Nothing. The Gulf was empty again. Dave and I sat there. The strip printer chattered. Normal sounds, normal night. Except nothing about the last 44 minutes had been normal. The report I filed said unidentified target, probable military exercise with incorrect transponder code. Radar contact lost approximately 180 millimeters east of Portland, FL 270. No distress communications received. Needs notified. Dave signed it, I signed it, our supervisor read it and said it looked fine. Nobody asked any follow-up questions. What the report didn't say was that the target flew 6 holds at a fix decommissioned in 1982, descending exactly 1,000 feet per hold, then cycled through every emergency code, emergency, lost comm, hijack in 3 sweeps, like it was trying every signal it knew. 3 weeks later, I was in the equipment room filing those old approach plates back in the cabinet. I don't know why I looked. Maybe I didn't want to look, and my hands did it anyway. The NOTAM file for SEBEC intersection. Decommissioning notice, March 1982. Clipped to it, a photocopy of an incident report from December 1981. A Beechcraft King Air 200, November 847, Papa Bravo. Carrying bank documents from St. John, New Brunswick to Bangor. The crew was assigned the hold at SEBEC. Entry altitude, flight level 310. They reported entering the hold at 0312 local. Bangor approach acknowledged. The crew said they'd advise when ready for the approach. They never advised. Bangor tried for 20 minutes. Coast Guard covered 300 square miles for 9 days. No wreckage, no oil slick, no ELT signal. The ocean doesn't give things back. I stood there holding that piece of paper. December 1981. The aircraft entered the hold at FL 310. 24 years later, a target appeared at FL 310 at the same fix and flew 6 holds descending 1,000 feet at a time. Like something still trying to get down, still following the procedure, still waiting for a clearance that nobody was going to give. I bid off Sector 55 the next week. Told them it was the schedule, the hours. Larry Kovacs took my slot and didn't ask why. I'm sitting in my den right now. It's quiet. The HVAC hums. Sometimes at night I count to 12 and listen for the sweep that isn't there. And I think about something over the water, in the dark, at a fix that doesn't exist anymore, still holding, still descending, running out of